Hello, folks. I'm Alan for today's news. I will be bringing you world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. And I try to have news for everybody, not just certain type. Anyway, let's get on with it. This one from Newsmax. Russian ransomware group breach federal agencies.
The Department of Energy and several other federal agencies were compromised in a Russian cyber extortion gang's global hack of a file transfer program popular with corporations and governments, but the impact was not expected to be great, Homeland Security officials said. But for others, among what could be hundreds of victims from industry to higher education, including patrons of at least 2 state motor vehicle agencies, Thursday's hack was beginning to show some serious impacts. Jen Easterly, director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, told reporters that unlike the meticulous, stealthy SolarWinds hacking campaign attributed to state-backed Russian intelligence agents that was months in the making, this campaign was short, relatively superficial, and caught quickly. Based on discussions we have had with industry partners, these intrusions are not being leveraged to gain broader access, to gain persistence into targeted systems, or to steal specific high-value information. In sum, as we understand it, this attack is largely an opportunistic one, Easterly said. Although we are very concerned about this campaign and working on it with urgency, this is not a campaign like SolarWinds that presents a systemic risk to our national security or our nation's networks, she added. A senior CISA official said neither the U.S. military nor intelligence community was affected. Energy Department spokesperson Chad Smith said 2 agency entities were compromised but did not provide more detail. Known victims to date include Louisiana's Office of Motor Vehicles, Oregon's Department of Transportation, the Nova Scotia provincial government, British Airways, the British Broadcasting Company and the UK drugstore chain Boots. The exploited program, Immoviite, is widely used by businesses to securely share files. Security experts say that can include sensitive financial and insurance data. Louisiana officials said Thursday that people with a driver's license or vehicle registration in the state likely had their personal information exposed. That included their name, address, social security number and birth date. They encouraged Louisiana residents to freeze their credit to guard against identity theft. The Oregon Department of Transportation confirmed Thursday that the attackers accessed personal information, some sensitive, for about 3.5 million people to whom the state issued identity cards or driver's licenses. The CL0P ransomware syndicate behind the hack announced last week on its dark website that its victims, who it suggested numbered in the hundreds, had until Wednesday to get in touch to negotiate a ransom or risk having sensitive stolen data dumped online. The gang, among the world's most prolific cybercrime syndicates, also claimed it would delete any data stolen from governments, cities, and police departments. The senior CISA official told reporters a small number of federal agencies were hit, declining to name them, and said this is not a widespread campaign affecting a large number of federal agencies. The official, speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss the breach, said no federal agencies had received extortion demands and no data from an affected federal agency had been leaked online by CL0P. U.S. officials have no evidence to suggest coordination between CL0P and the Russian government, the official said. The parent company of Immoviite's U.S. maker, Progress Software, alerted customers to the breach on May 31 and issued a patch. But cybersecurity researchers say scores if not hundreds of companies could by then have had sensitive data quietly exfiltrated. At this point, we are seeing industry estimates of several hundred of victims across the country, the senior CISA official said. Federal officials encouraged victims to come forward, but they often don't. The U.S. lacks a federal data breach law, and disclosure of hacks varies by state. Publicly traded corporations, healthcare providers and some critical infrastructure purveyors do have regulatory obligations. The cybersecurity firm's security scorecard says it detected 2,500 vulnerable Immoviite servers across 790 organizations, including 200 government agencies. It said it was not able to break down those agencies by country. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency.
Okay, I'm stopping it here. There's a little bit more to read on it. I got a lot of my news here. The link will be in my description box. I don't know why they waited so late to put up on the news, though, actually. Let me go to the next one here, which is about the same. This from KMOV4 out of St. Louis. University of Missouri investigating after Russian hacking group claims cyber attack on system. This is from out of St. Louis.
St. Louis. St. Louis, Missouri, KMOV, the University of Missouri is investigating a possible cyber attack that may have breached their software and information. University spokesperson Christian Basie confirmed that the university is looking into the possibility of a breach. This comes after a Russian hacking group called CL0P claims they have successfully attacked the university system. Basie said the university is not just focusing on the Columbia campus but investigating the entire university system for possible attacks. Earlier in June, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency issued an advisory after CL0P exploited a weakness in the Progress Software's managed file transfer solution known as MOVI transfer.
Yes, move it, a transfer, what it is. And let me go to my next one here. This from Becker News. Newly unsealed court docs show Georgia knew about vulnerable Dominion software. Refused to update it until after 2024 election.
It's election season. Incumbent Democratic President Joe Biden has not secured re-election. So, that means one thing: it's safe for Americans to discuss voting machine vulnerabilities again. Such is the case with a new CNN report that reveals the breathtaking development that Georgia will not be updating its Dominion software before the 2024 election. Newly unsealed court documents reveal that Georgia election officials have been aware of vulnerabilities in the state's voting software for over 2 years but have decided not to update the system until after the 2024 election. The vulnerabilities pertain to certain Dominion voting machines, and their existence has been confirmed by federal cybersecurity officials who have advised election officials nationwide to update their systems. Lawyers representing Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, stated in a recent federal court hearing that they would forego installing Dominion security patches until after the next presidential election. Election officials in Georgia maintain that the vulnerabilities are unlikely to be exploited in real attacks and claim to have implemented several security recommendations without the need for software updates. According to Mike Hassinger, a spokesperson for the Georgia Secretary of State's office, upgrading the system would be a massive undertaking, and officials are currently assessing the project's scope and timeframe. Upgrading the system will be a massive undertaking, and our election officials are evaluating the scope of, and time required for the project, Mike Hassinger, a spokesperson for the Georgia Secretary of State's office, told CNN. However, concerns have been raised about Georgia's heavy reliance on Dominion software compared to other states, potentially eroding confidence in the state's ability to conduct secure elections. While state and federal officials downplay the possibility of these vulnerabilities being exploited, the recently released report highlights Georgia's unique dependence on this specific Dominion software, thereby raising concerns about the state's election security. Gabriel Sterling, a senior election official in the Georgia Secretary of State's office, released a statement earlier this month, dismissing the likelihood of any bad actors successfully exploiting the voting systems. He emphasized the presence of safeguards in place to prevent the hypothetical attack scenarios described in the report. Alex Halderman, the author of the report and a computer scientist from the University of Michigan, acknowledged that Dominion voting systems updated its software in response to the attack scenarios he outlined. However, Georgia has chosen not to implement the recommended security patch and intends to do so only after the 2024 election. Halderman warned that delaying the security patches until 2025 would be worse than taking no action, as it would provide potential adversaries ample time to prepare and deploy attacks, knowing the state will use a software version with known vulnerabilities for the presidential election. The Georgia Secretary of State's office maintains that Halderman's attack scenarios are unrealistic, citing the extensive access he was granted to the voting equipment and the security controls in place at voting locations on Election Day. The report, which was released this week after being sealed for 2 years, was commissioned by a coalition of election integrity advocates involved in a long-standing lawsuit against the Georgia Secretary of State's office regarding concerns related to Dominion's electronic voting systems. Another report commissioned by Dominion and conducted by MITRE Corporation, a nonprofit research lab, concluded that 5 of Halderman's attack scenarios were non-scalable and would only affect an insignificant number of votes on a single device at a time. The 6th scenario was reportedly mitigated by access controls at voting locations. Dominion referred CNN to the MITRE report, which claims that Halderman's attacks are operationally infeasible.
Okay, I don't believe them. I never trust these voting machines anyway, no matter who makes them. Never did. And Georgia's going to wait because Georgia wants a Democratic president. That's why they're not doing it now. You know, they should do it now. It should be a law. Anyway, let me go to the next one here. This is from KMOV4 out of St. Louis. Unionized UPS workers could strike this summer, scrambling supply chains and home delivery. This is from Associated Press out of New York.
New York, AP, unionized UPS workers voted overwhelmingly on Friday to authorize a strike, setting the stage for a potential work stoppage if the package delivery company and Teamsters can't come to an agreement before their contract expires next month. The Teamsters said 97% of unionized workers voted for the authorization, which the union urged for in order to have more leverage during negotiations with the company. But a yes vote does not mean a strike is imminent. If this multi-billion-dollar corporation fails to deliver on the contract that our hardworking members deserve, UPS will be striking itself, Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien said in a prepared statement. The strongest leverage our members have is their labor, and they are prepared to withhold it to ensure UPS acts accordingly. The Teamsters represent about 340,000 UPS employees, more than half of the company's workforce in the largest private sector contract in North America. If a strike occurs, it would be the first since a 15-day walkout by 185,000 workers crippled the company a quarter century ago. UPS has grown vastly since then and become even more ingrained in the U.S. economy. The company says it delivers the equivalent of about 6% of nation's gross domestic product. That means a strike would carry with it potentially far-reaching implications for the economy. UPS said in a prepared statement the strike vote does not impact the company's current business operations. Authorization votes and approvals are normal steps in labor union negotiations, the company said. We continue to make progress on key issues and remain confident that we will reach an agreement that provides wins for our employees, the Teamsters, our company, and our customers. UPS workers are still seething about the current contract, which they feel was forced on them by prior union leadership in 2018 based on a technicality. The contract created two hierarchies of workers with different pay scales, hours, and benefits. The union wants it eliminated. In addition to addressing part-time pay and what workers say is excessive overtime, the union wants improvements to driver safety, particularly the lack of air conditioning in delivery trucks, which has been blamed for the death of a driver and hospitalizations of others. On Tuesday, the union and the company announced they reached a tentative agreement to equip more trucks with air conditioning equipment. Under the agreement, UPS said it would add air conditioning to U.S. small delivery vehicles purchased after January 1, 2024. But those changes aren't extending to vehicles already in operation, at least not yet. Instead, the union says 2 fans would be installed in all vehicles when a new contract is ratified. It also said the company agreed to add heat shield to some vehicles, and put air vents in all cars within 18 months of a new contract. Under the agreement, UPS says roughly 95% of its existing U.S. package delivery fleet will be enhanced. Teamsters spokesperson Cara Denise said there have been 24 tentative agreements reached with UPS since the negotiations began in April. The current contract expires on July 31st. UPS delivers around 25 million packages a day, representing about a quarter of all U.S. parcel volume, according to the global shipping and logistics firm Pitney Bowes. That's about 10 million parcels more than it delivered each day in the years leading up to the pandemic.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. There's a lot more to read, a little bit more. Anyway, I'm going over my time here. The link will be in my description box if you want to read the rest of it. Going to the next one here, Newsmax. Farmer Rep Barr to Newsmax. Biden impeachment inquiry can be filed.
Former Representative Bob Barr, Republican Georgia, told Newsmax on Friday that House Republicans have enough evidence to file an inquiry of impeachment with the Judiciary Committee and ramp up the investigation into allegations of bribery and influence peddling among President Joe Biden and members of his family. Barr was a key figure in the impeachment of Bill Clinton in the 1990s. He initiated an impeachment inquiry in 1997. In 1998, the House voted to impeach Clinton on perjury to a grand jury and obstruction of justice. Barr was among 12 House managers for the Senate trial, which ended in Clinton's acquittal on both charges. That's the whole purpose of an inquiry of impeachment, Barr told Carl Higbee Frontline. As I introduced in the House back in 1997 against Bill Clinton, at that time, in November of 1997, we didn't have the Monica Lewinsky story. We didn't have the Ken Starr report, but we had some very strong circumstantial evidence that the Clinton administration had engaged in improper illegal activities with regard to Red China and labor unions and so forth. I did what the Constitution and our laws allow, and that is introduce an inquiry of impeachment that simply says there may be enough evidence here to start an official impeachment. We clearly are at that same point now with the current president. Barr said the FBI is clearly stalling in cooperating with Republican lawmakers over allegations made by a federal whistleblower that an unclassified FD 1023 form contains allegations of a $5 million payment made to Biden when he was vice president by an executive at Ukrainian energy giant Burisma Holdings Limited to influence U.S. policy decisions. The form also alleges the executive has 17 audio records between himself and Biden's son, Hunter, who sat on Burisma's board. As a matter of fact, it isn't thinking they're stalling, Barr said. They obviously clearly are stalling, and that's squarely on FBI Director Christopher Wray, with whom I've been very disappointed the way he's been circling the wagons, not for the American people, but for the FBI. There is enough evidence at this point that there was very likely money that changed hands between the Biden family, if not Biden himself, and a foreign government, likely to be the Ukraine government. There's more smoke here. I think that the Republicans eventually will bring it out. But I do think that it is very much time to file an inquiry of impeachment as a responsible first step.
Okay, that's all I got on that one there. Yeah, I say go ahead and impeach Biden. I want him impeached. I want him out of there. You haven't done nothing good for us. Let me go to the next one here. Just from the cool down. Scientists discover lithium replacement that may revolutionize EV batteries. 99.7% efficiency after over 400 hours of use.
Maryland is already famous for its crabs, but researchers at the University of Maryland are looking to give that distinction an entirely different meaning. A team of scientists at the school's Center for Materials Innovation found that crustaceans like crabs and lobsters contain a chemical in their shells called chitin, which can be used to power batteries when combined with zinc. Crustacean shells packed with this chemical are typically thrown out en masse by restaurants that have no other use for them. But researchers believe this waste could serve as a powerful resource in the search for more sustainable batteries. Lithium-ion batteries, the common kind found in most of our cell phones and laptops, can take hundreds of thousands of years to break down after they're used up, not to mention the devastating environmental impact lithium extraction has on our planet. But these shellfish batteries are biodegradable and can decompose in soil after just 5 months, leaving behind zinc, which can be recycled.
And there's more to read on this if you want to hear more about it. I'm going to my next one now. This from New Scientist. Humans have pumped so much groundwater, we've shifted Earth's axis. So we're tipping in.
Over the course of about 2 decades, humans pumped enough water out of the ground that we shifted Earth's poles by almost a meter. This is equivalent to the polar drift caused by melting Greenland ice over the same period. Most people would go about their lives and wouldn't be aware of Earth's wobbles or the drift, says Clark Wilson at the University of Texas at Austin. He and his colleagues modeled how changes in the distribution of water around the planet have affected the drifting of the poles. Some of that polar wander is down to natural causes. Because Earth isn't a perfect sphere, it wobbles like a top several meters each year. The poles also drift due to changes in the distribution of mass around the planet, such as the movement of water due to the seasons.
And there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest of it. Maybe that's why I feel lightheaded sometimes. The Earth is wobbling. Let me go to the next one here. Link will be in my description box. This is from 1945. Completely annihilated. Ukraine launches big artillery strike on Russian armor.
Before the war in Ukraine, many experts believed that Russia's military might actually be among the best on Earth, maybe even second to the United States. However, we can say that Moscow's forces are quite a few steps below Washington and maybe a few other nations. The evidence keeps growing with each passing day as Ukraine destroys more and more of Russia's forces, and we can see it all on social media. Ukraine completely annihilated Russian armor. The Ukrainian 45th Separate Artillery Brigade has racked up another hill in the Luhansk Oblast, destroying a Russian BMD-4M airborne infantry fighting vehicle. The unit was first raised in August 2016 and has continued to share videos of its actions on social media. According to a post from Ukraine Weapons Tracker, at UA Weapons, on Friday, the unit successfully targeted the IFV on the outskirts of the city of Kreminna in the Luhansk Oblast. In the nearly 1-minute-long clip, the BMD-4M can be seen burning after taking a direct hit.
And see, I think there's more to read on that. Yeah, there's more to read on that if you want to read it. Trying to sharpen my news up, I ain't gonna make it. Trying to give you as much information as I can without going to like 2 hours of it. Let me go to my next one here now. This from 1945. Ukraine lost NATO Leopard 2 tanks, but Putin shouldn't get excited.
The Ukrainian military will likely be receiving additional Leopard 2 main battle tanks to replace combat casualties it has suffered on the counteroffensive. In addition, Ukrainian pilots will soon be starting training on the F-16 Fighting Falcon fighter jet as the case for sending Ukraine Western fighter jets gains momentum. Leopard 2 main battle tanks. The Ukrainian military has almost 100 Leopard 2 tanks in service right now, making the German-made main battle tank the most populous Western tank in service with the Ukrainian forces. As such, the Leopard 2 is playing an important role in the Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Donbass and southern Ukraine. But the fleet of Ukrainian Leopard 2s has taken casualties. Last week, during a mechanized push in Zaporizhia, the Ukrainian military lost several M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and a couple of Leopard 2A6 tanks. The Ukrainian forces have also lost a few Leopard 2A4s from enemy fire but also from the terrain, stuck in the mud. The West is now looking to replace Ukrainian losses and send additional tanks on top of that. Earlier this week, the Swiss National Council began a vote to decommission 25 Leopard 2A4 tanks and resell them back to Germany. In return, Berlin is likely to ship those tanks to Ukraine. In addition, Denmark and the Netherlands are buying 14 Leopard 2s from the manufacturer Rheinmetall on behalf of Ukraine. It is thus likely that Ukraine will have an additional 39 Leopard 2s in its arsenal soon. Compared to Russian tanks, the Leopard 2 has improved nighttime fighting capabilities and thermal sensors. That makes the Ukrainian tank much more dangerous in the fields of Ukraine. Indeed, Russian troops that have encountered the Leopard 2 already speak with reverence about its capabilities.
And there's more to read about that if you want to read the rest of it. I'm going to my next one now. This from Markets Insider. A China-based bank that's trying to de-dollarize global lending is now having trouble repaying its dollar debts, report says.
The new development bank is having trouble finding dollar funds to repay debts, the Wall Street Journal said. It was established by the BRICS bloc of nations to offer alternatives to dollar lending. But its own finances were deeply reliant on Wall Street, which backed away after the Ukraine war. A development bank established by the BRICS bloc of nations to reduce reliance on US dollar loans is having trouble finding dollars to repay its own debts, sources told the Wall Street Journal. Based in Shanghai, the new development bank has largely ceased issuing new loans, the report said. The institution came about 8 years ago through the collective effort of the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It was meant to establish an alternative to US-dominated, dollar-based financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund and dovetailed with Beijing's efforts to erode the greenback status. Its lending was aggressive, and committed loans climbed from $1 billion in 2017 to $30 billion in 2022.
Okay, and there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest of it. I'm going to go to my next one now. I thought this one here was interesting. It's from Business Insider. Toyota is trying to make electric vehicles with fake manual transmission to appeal to consumers. I can't say that word.
Future Toyota electric vehicles could include simulated manual transmissions. The new models will even simulate the experience of the car stuttering if drivers mess up. Drivers can choose to disable these features if returning to manual is too daunting. Toyota's future electric vehicles may come with an extra hit of nostalgia for seasoned drivers, a fake manual transmission. The feature would allow drivers to simulate manual transmission through a fake clutch that would send signals to the engine that create the feeling of switching gears, according to a May 2023 patent report filed by Toyota and obtained by CNN. These models would include a clutch pedal and even simulate downshifting, allowing drivers to slow the vehicle using the transmission rather than the brake, according to CNN. Those who never learned to drive a manual car will even be able to experience that initial terror of making mistakes. The cars will simulate the consequences of using the clutch poorly, CNN reports, with the models programmed to jolt and buck if drivers shift into the wrong gear. It won't stall, however, sparing new drivers of that awkward moment of being stuck in the middle of an intersection. The addition appears to be strictly fanfare, with CNN even calling the move just for fun. The fake manual transmission won't actually have any functional purpose. Drivers will also have the option to disable the feature entirely. But these potential future models might be appealing to drivers interested in an extra hit of nostalgia every time they get behind the wheel, or perhaps those interested in making their driving experience feel less electronic and more mechanic. Toyota did not respond to requests for comment ahead of publication regarding which future models might contain this feature, or whether the simulated clutch would present a cost increase to consumers.
Okay, that's all I got on that one. There probably will be a cost increase. It might be fun, if you want to play around with it. Otherwise, it's just useless. They charge more for it. You're paying more money for nothing. Just a game, Anyway, I do love manual transmission. I hate automatics. That's the way everything's going, automatics. I prefer a manual transmission myself. And let me go to the next one here. This is from Business Insider. Armed with depleted uranium ammo, Ukraine's tank gunners could punch through rough Russian armor and set tanks on fire.
Reports say the U.S. is expected to send Ukraine depleted uranium tank rounds along with M1 Abrams tanks. The rounds do what other tank rounds don't, like sharpening on impact and starting fires. A retired U.S. Army general told Insider that these rounds are more likely to break through even hard-to-beat armor. It looks like the new Western-made tanks being added to Ukraine's growing armored arsenal are going to come with hard-hitting rounds that its forces can use to punch holes in Russia's tanks and wreak havoc inside. The U.S., which has already promised to send Ukraine its combat-proven M1 Abrams tanks, is expected to follow in the UK's footsteps and also send armor-piercing depleted uranium tank rounds designed to defeat even hard-to-beat armor. These rounds do what others do not, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Thomas Spohr, who served with the 1st Armored Division during his nearly 4 decades in the military, told Insider. With a tank round, it's all about getting inside the tank, penetrating the armor and getting into the crew compartment and destroying the tank, he said. 2 options for achieving this are shaped charges and penetrators.
Okay, and there's more to read on that. We'll read the rest of it. I think this is a game changer here. Okay, let's go to the next one here. This from 1945. Ukraine says it can, in war, kick Russia out of country entirely.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this week said that this military's counteroffensive could end the war and force Russia out of Ukraine entirely. Speaking to NBC News on Thursday, Zelensky said that if the Kremlin loses in the wake of his counteroffensive, they will lose the war. Our heroic people, our troops on the front line are facing very tough resistance, Zelensky told the outlet. Because for Russia to lose this campaign to Ukraine, I would say, actually means losing the war. Reports from the front line. The Ukrainian leader also said that reports from the front line have so far been generally positive, but he did not play down the seriousness of his ongoing military efforts and described the ongoing counteroffensive as very difficult. As is typically the case for Zelensky while speaking to U.S. media outlets, he also stressed the importance of receiving yet more Western weapons, focusing specifically on the slow progress made in supplying modern fighter jets to Ukraine so far. Zelensky's comments could indicate that his military has much more planned for the ongoing counteroffensive, though could also be designed to encourage Western leaders to speed up plans to deliver F-16 fighter jets and other advanced weapons. The New York Times reported on June 15 that Ukrainian defense officials had reported slow progress in multiple parts of southeastern Ukraine where soldiers are attempting to push back Russian troops. Hanna Maliar, a deputy Ukrainian defense minister, told reporters this week that it is proving very difficult to advance. While Ukraine has reportedly taken back control of at least 7 towns and villages since the counteroffensive began, Maliar confirmed that no new gains were made over the last 3 days, and added that progress is slow but confident. Will Ukraine even need F-16s? If Zelensky is right, and Russia loses the ongoing counteroffensive, it could theoretically make the West's promise to provide F-16 flight training to Ukrainian pilots, and ultimately the delivery of advanced jets themselves, an unnecessary expense. Chances are, however, Zelensky is hoping that the jets will arrive in Ukraine during the counteroffensive, and ultimately help his military achieve its goals as soon as possible. On June 15, Western defense chiefs met at the NATO headquarters for a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, in which the plans to provide F-16 training were discussed. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told reporters that the Netherlands and Denmark would step up to lead this consortium and are already outlining the plan for training.
Okay, and that's all I got on that one there. Let's go to my second from my last here. This is from Business Insider. Biden causes confusion after appearing to sign off a speech on gun control with God Save the Queen, man.
President Joe Biden baffled people after ending a speech by saying, "God Save the Queen." Biden was speaking on gun violence reform at the National Safer Communities Summit in Connecticut. The White House press office later said Biden was commenting to someone in the crowd. Joe Biden left many perplexed after ending a speech in Connecticut on the importance of gun control with the unexpected sign-off, "God Save the Queen." Biden gave a speech on Friday at the National Safer Communities Summit in West Hartford, Connecticut, discussing the necessity of increased gun safety legislation. The president ended the speech by noting that he could not shake hands with people in the audience due to an incoming storm. "All right. God save the Queen, man," he said.
Okay, and that's all I got. I'm going to play on that one. There's more to read if you want to read the rest of it. He's an idiot. Biden's an idiot. Yeah, he's stupid. I don't know how he became a president, even a vice president. He is so dumb. And old. Let's go to the last one here. This from the cool down. New report shows how 80% of America's retired coal plants could soon become nuclear reactors. An important opportunity.
A 2022 report by the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, shows that 80% of the country's retired or active coal plants are suitable to host advanced nuclear reactors. The team identified 157 retired coal plant sites and 237 operating coal plant sites that can undergo a coal-to-nuclear transition. This could lead to many new employment opportunities, increasing economic benefits, and a significant improvement in nearby environmental conditions. Nuclear energy is set to play a key role in meeting President Biden's goals to achieve a clean grid by 2035 and reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. To pull that off, the DOE estimates that the country will need around 200 gigawatts of new nuclear power. As of 2022, there were 92 nuclear power reactors in the U.S., most of which are on the East Coast or in the Midwest. And in 2021, nuclear power accounted for around 19% of energy produced in the U.S. Advanced nuclear will become an increasingly important source of safe, reliable, and flexible baseload power as the nation decarbonizes its energy systems, Jigar Shah, director of the Loan Programs Office at the U.S. Department of Energy, shared in a LinkedIn post. Advanced nuclear, along with other firm and flexible energy sources, will help ensure there is reliable and affordable energy on a modern, decarbonized grid, he added. Some critics question the use of nuclear energy to solve climate problems, partially due to costs, risks, and radioactive wastes. Meanwhile, the Nuclear Energy Institute claims that advanced nuclear reactors will offer a variety of benefits such as water desalination, process heat and alternative fuels generation, and access to power beyond the grid. It adds, advanced reactors represent the cutting edge in nuclear technology, many are inherently safer by design. The 2022 report found that a coal-to-nuclear transition could reduce carbon pollution in nearby areas by 86%, which, according to the DOE, is equivalent to taking more than 500,000 gasoline-powered passenger vehicles off the roads. This is an important opportunity to help communities around the country preserve jobs, increase tax revenue, and improve air quality, Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Energy Dr. Catherine Huff said in a press release shared by the DOE. As we move to a clean energy future, we need to deliver place-based solutions and ensure an equitable energy transition that does not leave communities behind.
Okay, that's all I got on that one there. That's all I got for the news for today. I hope I got something for you. And it didn't go as long as I thought it would. And don't forget to like, subscribe, at least come back once in a while. And until next time, thanks for watching. Later.